Hey everyone, this is Dean and welcome to Photo Blue. Today I'm going to show you how to sharpen photographs using Luminar Neo. Now when we sharpen a photograph we got to be a little bit careful because if we sharpen it too much it can look over processed and it can look too contrasty and just kind of artificial and bad. Right now there's this picture of these two gulls, these two birds right here, and this one's a little bit out of focus, or a little bit more out of focus than this one. This one is not really quite sharp. We can't see as much because they're not blown up. They're a little bit in the distance in this picture. And so the more you blow this up, like if you took it and printed it at like a really big size, the more noticeable out of focus is going to be. So when you actually work on sharpness of something, it's good to kind of zoom in on it to see what the actual effect is and then zoom back to see how the overall effect looks. Sometimes zoomed up it will look a little bit over processed, but when you zoom back out again it may be fine. It might still look good, so that's something to bear in mind. So we're going to zoom in here to these two birds so we can get a closer look. And wait a second here because it takes a minute for it to adjust the image so it's in focus again. And so you can see this bird is a little bit soft focused. This one's is less in focus. There's not as much we can do about this bird. The sharpening, this bird is out of focus enough so that the sharpening, it will help a little, but it's not going to bring it into sharp focus. This bird is just slightly out of focus, so we can do some more with this particular bird. So the previous versions of Luminar, sharpening was in a separate section on its own, but now it's under develop. So we're going to go down here to sharpen, and I'm going to sharpen it, say this much, about a third or up to 35. And so I'm going to turn off the sharpening now. You see, if you look around this bird's eye when I turn the sharpening off, which I'm doing right now, you can see it's less in focus. When I turn it back on, it's more in focus. These darker spots on its feather come out more. Now they're a little bit blurred. So let's sharpen it a little bit more. We're going to go up about another 30 or so, and this is pretty good here. I don't know that I would go much more than this because this is looking pretty good. If we turn it off, this is the way it looked, and so that's really improved the sharpness on this bird a lot. If we look at this bird, turn it off and on, it's improved it just slightly, but not much. And if we move all the way back out, the bird looks really good right now. The focus is sharper. So this is probably about where we want it. But let's go back in here again. And I just want to show you some other things with the sharpening. So let's exaggerate it. So if we sharpen it all the way, it actually doesn't look too bad there. That's a little bit over processed, but this isn't as over processed as it would look in a lot of other programs. Luminar Neo actually has a pretty good sharpening tool. You also see these things right here that look kind of like scratches. That's actually because it's raining, and so those are actually like raindrops. And because of the shutter speed, they look like they're that's kind of a motion blur from making them look longer or whatever. If we turn it off, they're not as prominent. So one thing you have to be careful of when you sharpen things is if it's bringing out details that you don't want, because the ways it sharpens is to kind of sharpen around edges that it finds, and it also increases contrast. Both of those things will make it look sharper. So the other thing we have is this radius here, and we can turn the radius up as well, and it will actually sharpen it even more, but it makes it much more contrasty. So it's using a contrast more to try to make it look sharper. So if we turn it off, this is the original, and this is it all the way up with all the way sharpened and the radius all the way up. And so it's much more contrasty. It's looking over processed. But if we move this back to a more normal size, you see, it looks actually too sharp here. It almost looks like this bird is drawn, actually. So you don't want to go up to that amount. You want to make sure that you keep it at a level that it's not too contrasting and doesn't look too over processed. If we look at this bird one more time, you can see it has sharpened the out of focus bird quite a bit, but it doesn't look good overall. It looks over processed. So that's how you sharpen pictures in Luminar Neo. I'm Dean, and this has been Photo Blue, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like.